Everybody, to another Georgia Archery podcast. I'm your host, Big John Chandler, and as you know, we do these long form content and try to find different guests from all over the industry and archers and from Georgia. But the good part about this is an industry that we all use, and this gentleman here is representing that industry, archery, and parts that we use every day in hunting and shooting our arrows and that type of thing. Just happens to be here in Georgia. So without further ado, let's introduce him for people who are listening to this. Randy Groff, I can't even speak this morning. Anyway, Director of Operations for FL Outdoors. How are you doing, Randy?
I'm doing good, Big John. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. Like I said before, this is Georgia Archery, but we do talk to everybody in the industry, no matter what. It just so happens that y'all are right up the road. So first off, introduce yourself, introduce who you work for now, and then we'll get into you as a person. So
okay. Well, I'm Randy Groff. I'm Director of Operations, like John said, for FL Outdoors. We do all manufacturing for Swacker Broadheads, tack vanes, and Khmer deer. We do distribution for Steel Force Broadheads as well from our same facility. So I basically oversee all the manufacturing, from buying raw materials, putting it together. We bought 3 Swiss screw machines a few years ago so we can make our own ferrules in-house instead of being made overseas. So that's been a big project we've been working on for about 2 years. We're well under the, in the swing of things, and learned more about those machines than we could have, than you can imagine, in a pretty short amount of time, and how they work and the little quirks and what to expect. And now we're finally into a new product cycle, year after year. That's what it seems like is the attention span of bow hunters and archers seems to be like getting less and less and less. And whether that comes down to they just start practicing later and later and later, closer to the season, or they just, unless it's super interesting from somebody who's like beating the drum on social media, it's just not cool enough. So we're trying to make sure that we have new products every single year. So we're finally in a cycle now that we're totally caught up on production and everything, from the transition of bringing it to the U.S., that we're able to make some new products every year. So, we got a couple new products we launched last year, a few we launched this year, and we're starting up and like I said, a good cycle. So it's been going really well.
And if you're watching this, you can see he's actually at work. We just interrupted him at work today. So, so it's cool, that you were right here and you moved everything back to the United States as far as manufacturing with the screw machines and the different pieces, and because that's been a big deal. Just in the industry alone, to be able to build products in the United States again. I mean, just is what it is. But first off, I'm just going to ask you, now that we have who you are and what you represent out of the way, how was your weekend this weekend?
It was good. I spent a lot of it on the lake with the kids. That's what we do. We pretty much go sandbar to sandbar. We go to the little beaches. Kids swim, have fun. I got a pontoon boat that I have barely running. It runs on 3 cylinders right now, and it's been that way for about 6 months. I got a weird combination to get it fired up, but it's enough to get us out on the water.
Yeah, and the kids don't care. They just get to play. So
as long as we get there, they don't care. So
I understand. Yeah.
That's pretty much what I did all weekend. I'm kind of bummed right now. I got a little bit of an arm issue, so I haven't been able to shoot my bow recently. I've missed the last 2 ASA tournaments. I've gone and represented our products in the booth, but I haven't been able to shoot. So I'm finally getting close now where I can shoot again, probably pretty soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're in the industry, you do like to shoot your bow every once in a while, right?
It's nice to be able to, yes.
Yeah, for sure. I sling arrows. I don't know about compete very well, but I have fun and enjoy doing it. That's what I did this weekend. Is I actually shot an ASA qualifier on Sunday, and I work on Saturdays. You know that at the shop where it's that weird time of year when people are kicking tires or just looking. They're not spending yet. Just the same thing you just said, that the guys just if somebody hasn't beat the door down on social media, my phone doesn't ring about a product. And then, right now everybody's figuring out how to play on the beach and play in the sun and do those things and finish up school. A lot of the kids are trying to finish up the last part of school. So, the money's in a different spot right now. But it's like 4th of July flips a switch for, most of the archery shops and, people who think, and we try to push it ahead of time in social media. Hey, get your bow ready. Let's shoot a tournament, shoot some, get your bow out. TAC events have moved people into keeping their bows more shooting. I think there are a lot more people shooting bows year round. It used to be that guys wouldn't pull their bows out till the month before, make sure it was all good, and then they'd shoot it. And then as soon as gun season come in, there's a lot of guys that just slide their bow back under the counter, under the bed and go with whatever. But that is the thing with TAC and, tournament archery. Most of the guys and with ASA or NFA, they're using tournament bows. But that TAC is sort of nipped into the Total Archery Challenge is sort of nipped into the bow hunter guy, to keep their bow going. We sell a lot of light arrows and cheap arrows to a lot of guys. They come in and buy a dozen or 2 dozen at a time and going, hey, I'm going to TAC and I just need a bunch of arrows, and they sight in for it. Yep. So they said, we're going to lose them, so we don't want to spend this much money. So it's crazy. But, we've known each other for, I don't know, many years now. I've seen you in different aspects of this industry. So you've been in several different areas. So give somebody your background. I mean, where you're from originally, and I know you were a hunter, that type of thing. So you just go from there. Of you as your background and how you ended up to all the way up to FL Outdoors. So.
Okay. Well, it started, man. My dad just got me into bow hunting, got me into hunting really originally. And then, I was from Pennsylvania. So I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I was actually shunned from the Amish community. I'm just kidding.
He went on Rumspringa and never came back. No,
No, so I grew up there in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And in Pennsylvania, where I grew up, you could not hunt until you were 12 years old. So I remember my dad used to go down to West Virginia and he would hunt with people and there was no age limit. I'm like, Dad, take me. I want to go. And he's like, you're not ready yet. And I didn't understand that until I had my own kids. Now I get it. That there's a point when the kids actually will listen to you and take instruction, and when they get a little more attention span, that kind of thing. So that helps. So anyway, I started hunting. I obviously killed several of my first animals, first deer with a gun. And, got hooked on it, just absolutely loved it. And then my dad always bow hunted. And my dad's cousin actually had an archery shop in Millersville, Pennsylvania that was called Bowmasters Archery. And so that really got me into it, where I got like a little recurve bow and then I would shoot that thing. And I remember I got like a little little round wheel. It was a red fiberglass bow with little round wheels on it. And I was just flinging arrows. And I'll never forget, like one time my dad had a target at like 40 yards. He and my neighbor were shooting and they were like stacking them in there. And I lobbed one to hit right in the middle of the ring. And I'm like, look, and just got into it. And so it didn't take much longer that I think I was like 16 or 17 that me and two of my closest buddies all got bows, and we bought a Bowmaster portable bow press. We started just wrenching on our own stuff, and we had no idea what we were doing, but we were putting bows together and we were killing deer with them. So it was like, hey, it's working. And so I just got more and more into it. And then we bought fletching jigs. We were cresting arrows. We were like some of the few guys around, other than some archery shops were doing it, but we actually bought the dipping tubes and everything.
Oh, yeah.
we were dipping arrows, and we were like making these real cool looking arrows and stuff. And basically, I just decided at one point, right when I was about to graduate, I was like, man, I got to do something. I don't know what I'm going to do. All I did was work on farms my whole life. And so it was a lot of improvising, a lot of different things. And, the farm I worked on had a pretty cool shop that the guy was like big into fabricating things. Like, he's like, oh, you know what? If I made this and this and this and welded it all together, I could probably make that part work forever. And so he taught me a lot of just wrenching on things. And basically, I went to trade school, right after high school, went for HVAC, and I tell everybody they tricked me and handed out tests and homework and stuff. And after one semester, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go down to Lancaster Archery. I know that's right down the road here. I've been in there a couple times, but I didn't even know what they had. It was a pretty good sized archery shop. Didn't think anything of it. Well, obviously, I know now that there's not really any archery shop like that in the country. And so I went in. At the time, I didn't have any money. They were like, you need any help? I'm like, no, thanks. I'm just kind of looking around, killing some time. Well, I left, and then this was back in the day when you could text Google. I don't know if you remember that, John, but you could text to Google an address or the name of a company, and it would literally send you back their address and their phone number.
Yeah.
So I got their phone number. I called them and I said, hey, you guys looking for any help? And they're like, not really, but like, if you want to send your resume. I'm like, a what? I'm like, I don't have a resume. So I basically went home, I got my aunt's resume, deleted stuff out, put my stuff in, and just made up my resume. And I just said, me and some buddies have been setting up our own bows, fletching our own arrows for several years now. And I'm nuts about bow hunting. And I shot my last deer with a gun when I was 17 and just lost interest. It's just not fun.
Yeah.
I don't need the meat that bad. I love to eat it, but I'd rather sit there and have one in close that I have to wait for a great shot, because archery is that much more fun. It's that much more rewarding, especially when you shoot a good one. You rip it out of the weeds and you're like, what did I just do? So it got me hooked. And I worked at Lancaster Archery for 11 years. And really, I in hindsight, how it always is, I realized that I grew up there, and they taught me the ins and outs about archery, how stuff works, and learned to simplify a bow. Like, I remember when I first started in the showroom and I was setting up bows and I had a customer. We did it right in front of the customer. Like, I had their bow, and other than on the bow press was in the back, I came in, I was putting stuff together, showing them how it worked and everything. So it felt like some pressure, and I was, I wasn't very cultured at the time because all I did was work on farms. So I'm just trying to learn how to talk to people, what, what does and doesn't work, and setting up bows, and then really just learn to simplify them. It's like anything that you do enough times, you realize, oh, well, this cable has to oppose the other one, and those both have to oppose the string. But I remember taking pictures of cams, like, all right, how does this string wrap around? And
100%.
Taking pictures of it. I'm like, all right, I'm about to take it apart and see how this turns out. So now, though, like, all bows are pretty much the same. There's not much different once you finalize it. So anyway, spent 11 years there. I got to do a lot of traveling, so I got to know a lot of guys on the ASA and Pro-Am tour. I did all the NFAA events, and got to know a lot of those guys, and so like kind of built a good reputation with some of them. And then I ended up, was presented with another opportunity to go to Kinsey's Archery. So I worked at Kinsey's for 3.5 years. I did a lot of work in their brands division, just helping to just add input to design some new products and things. And that was with like Elevation and October Mountain products. So they made some premium tools from OMP. Then they made like bow cases and quivers and stuff from Elevation. So that gave me a whole new perspective on the industry, which is the wholesale side of it.
Yep.
At Lancaster, we did retail and we did wholesale, but I didn't understand margins. I didn't understand how that stuff works. I didn't understand, how important it is for a dealer to be able to have those margins and how to protect dealers and things like that. And so I learned a whole other side of it where Kinsey's only sold, they were strictly a distributor. They only sold to businesses. And so I got to know a lot of archery shops around the country. And so basically one day, suddenly I got a call, said, hey, would you be interested in moving to Georgia and taking this job? I'm like, for what? Like, well, they're going to try to build a brand making vanes. I'm like, veins. I'm like, man, I always played with veins. Like I have a bucket back behind, actually right there, still that, is just full of random arrows and you can see that on almost all of them, it's different veins. Like I always tried different ones and was trying to see what was quietest, what flew the best, what was the best for my setup. And I was like, all right, let's see how it goes. So long story short, I moved down to Georgia. At the ripe old age of like 32 years old, it's like, all right, first time I'm ever moving away from my hometown. And, so came down here, started figuring out how to run our equipment, design some equipment for cutting. We have like a proprietary cutting system that like literally no one else has, that makes them super, super consistent. So like they're the same over and over and over again. And developed all kinds of packaging solutions and things like that. And then it basically, after doing tack veins and getting that kind of up and rolling, I felt like kind of that was my proving ground for the company. And when that went really well, they made me basically the operations manager for Swacker as well. And so I just oversaw our assembly team, packaging, basically making raw materials into finished goods.
Yeah.
Which was the same year that they were like, hey, we're bringing production to the U.S. And I was like, okay, sounds simple. Well, it wasn't.
Definitely not.
It was anything but simple. A lot of learning curves. Luckily for us, we didn't really have any major things that made us fall on our face, because honestly, that happens a lot when you go, and I learned so much about the manufacturing side because I was always in sales. So really what I realized in hindsight in sales is like all I had to do was memorize the couple sales lines of each different product.
Yep.
And repeat it, just regurgitating the information. Or, as I'm putting them on, I see how this works, and I would explain to people like, well, this is how it works and this is why it's good or why I like it and things like that. But basically, from what I learned about archery at Lancaster, what I learned about the business and, sales, and especially B2B sales from Kinsey's, I kind of put it all together, and I'm like, all right, let's try manufacturing. And, I was always told that being in manufacturing is probably your best option in the industry. If you can get in with a manufacturer, you generally have like the most growth opportunities and things like that. And so I was like, I had that in mind, and I came down here, just went full head on. Let's see how to make this work. And
for sure,
it's going really well. I've been here 6 years now. Now I'm the director of our whole outdoor division. So, oversee, like I said, Swacker production, the tack veins production, and Khmer deer as well. So they're all national brands that have gone really well over the years. Mm-hmm. And it's been a lot of fun. So.
Yep. And like you said before, in those 6 years, there has been leaps and bounds as far as packaging changes. Like you said, you're the tinkerer in you, like to make it better, right? It's not about just building a product. It's also building a better product, and some changes with this or some changes with that, and it's always moving forward, with your new high profile vein, that's the newest piece. And, and I don't know if validation is a good word, but when somebody does a test and studies sound and drag and independently uses all different brands, and then your brand seems to jump in the top of that was pretty cool, so you felt like you did the right thing, I think, because when everybody asked me, he says, do you see that study? I was like, yeah. Did you see that the plant that, the company that's right up the road did very well in there. So I said, well, everybody asked me why I shoot the veins that I shoot. I said, first of all, I'm going to support local as much as I can, but on top of that, they do their job and they're not loud. They, fly good. They're stiff. They're strong. They, the biggest thing that people always complained to start with, I believe, was having them sticking. They got used to lick and stick type broadheads. Veins that they never did it. Does that make sense? Like they never, nobody had ever fletched arrows. So they just thought it was just put some glue on it and stick them on. And that's not the way with 90% of the veins. Your veins have done well. We've become friends because we're, you run in and out of the shop because we're probably the closest shop to you. You're like, just because you run by on certain times and that kind of thing. But, that's a cool story. I knew that, I knew you when you were at Lancaster, and then I remember when you switched to Kinsey's, because we've been in the business for so long that we've worked in and out with a bunch of different, all of those companies at one time, and to learn different aspects, like you said, the business side of just selling parts, and then Kinsey's with more of a manufacturing business to business with a whole bunch of tools. I mean, there's a whole lot of those OMP products that we use every day and sell to customers now. And their little recurve line and the different things that they have. The October Mountain products has been a good little niche that they have picked out, and of course the cases and quivers and that type of thing. So it was cool. And then when you came down, it's like, oh, that's cool. I know him. He's a pretty good guy. And you had to, like you said, tool stuff, make stuff to make it work. Proprietary blends of plastics and whatever to make your vein do what it does, and color pigment. People don't understand the science behind how much change color pigment does to veins. I want a purple one. Well, the purple may weigh a different, but I want two purple and a red. Well, they may weigh different because why they weigh different? Well, because there's pigment problem. The color takes a difference. It does the same thing with string material, but that's cool. Being that you're in the you went from a all over archery, and then all over. Kinsey sells everything, not just archery products, but they sell everything. And now you're in more of a hunting, with come here deer and swacker broadheads. Did your hunting get better with changing products? I mean, where have you been hunting lately?
I'm mostly hunting Georgia here now. I've been hunting some public land up in Missouri, and I like to go wherever I can. I usually take like one trip a year at least, when I can. I've hunted mostly whitetails. I haven't been able to go out west again for mule deer and elk in several years as much as I want to. It's like one of these years I'm getting close, and I'm going to have to just pull the trigger.
Yep.
But also being in the industry, you run into somebody that's like, man, just come out. I got a buddy in Colorado that's been begging me to come back out with him. I went with him in 2007. We had an awesome week, and he's like, man, come again? I'm like, I definitely will when I can.
Yeah, well, you got kids get involved, and that makes a lot of difference, right? I mean, there's just plain and simple. Having kids throws a wrench in our stuff because we want our kids to do what they want to do. There's no doubt about that. So, but so like you said, we're in that cycle now where it's fixing to start, right? And products and people launch. We launched different products at different trade shows. All the trade shows are early in the year for the most part. Now we're deep into tournament season. You probably saw an influx of small veins here since the sun has been out and it's all pretty and outdoor season has come. So, an influx in selling the smaller veins. so you have that keeps, and it's not a lot. Don't get me wrong. Tournament archery is a little bitty piece of this product, of archery in general. It really is. And then, but the hunting season is what drives most companies in the United States anyway, for sure. So
yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I always noticed, like, Lancaster Archery was so target archery oriented, but what I do find is like 95% of those target archers also bow hunt. Well, when you market well to them and you work with them, and then they talk about it, well, they're the hometown hero. They're the guy that they're the guy to beat at the club or the local shop, or shoot indoor league or 3D league. Like, they're the guy that everybody's like, dude, how's he so good? And it's like, well, he puts time in, and he's going and actually shooting the tournaments and seeing things like that. And so when you market well to them, it all comes back to you. But the hunting side, I mean, it's like you have archery, and like 15% of it is target archery.
Exactly.
But it's big for what it is.
Yes.
It's just the bow hunting is the volume, because that's like the thing that anybody can use, anybody can do. It's kind of like fishing. It's not gender oriented. It's not anything. But one of the best things about tack mains is it's way less seasonal in sales than Swacker or Khmer deer.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. It's because you get that 15% in the off season.
Exactly. So we always have some product moving pretty well with tack. With Swacker though, it's literally we make like the majority of our nut in a year in 2.5 months.
Yep.
Well, forecasting for that, knowing what you got to have, having enough time to build it and put it together by the time everybody's starting to want it, and then they all want it at the same time. Well, if you run out right then, you got to be able to pivot and turn around. Well, you can't call up Taiwan and say, hey, I need this now, because it's 120 days or 100 days or something from the time you do it. So it doesn't work. By that time you already missed the wave. So making our own products here allows me to get into, like, as soon as the busy season starts to see, I'm looking at trends all the way through, SKU by SKU, making sure that, hey, we cannot run low on this. Like, let's jam it. Like, take this off the machine, put this one back on, or something.
Exactly. Yep. You can pivot. You can pivot for whatever, and you never look. If we had a crystal ball, we'd all be rich, right? I mean, but we don't have a crystal ball, but we have to play off trends, and as well as I do, one gentleman, one female that uses this product and kills like a new massive deer every, it's like whatever wins on Sunday sold on Monday. That was the old theory when in NASCAR, and it's the same today with tournament archery. They always look at what people are shooting, but on the same side, hunting is the same way, and it's so instant today. We used to have to wait for a magazine, a video, or whatever, and the cycle was a lot different because those videos were from the year before, right? We were watching TV shows that were all filmed the year before, and that product blew up a year later because of the TV shows. Well, now with social media, it blows up tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
The guy who shoots the perfect score, or the guy who shoots the 160 200-inch deer, that type of thing, and everybody goes, well, what was he hunting with, what's he shooting with? And I got to do that too. There's a whole lot more than just having his product to kill that animal. But at the same time, it does make it validates the product, and then they go, hey, I'm gonna try that, and so that's the crazy part. Like you said, you got to be able to pivot today. In the industry, it's like crazy, but let's go back to tournament archery. So you offer itty bitty vanes for outdoors all the way up to now your high profile 2.75s. You got a wrap line for almost every size arrow in the topo, and then you got a couple of standard wraps that are different colors in the tack line. Is there anything that I've missed?
that pretty well covers it. I mean, what I wanted to make sure we had when we launched the brand, we had a handful of different profiles. We got them out. We just kind of saw what the trends were, like the Matrix and the Summit. They
Yep.
were great vanes, to be honest. Like side-by-side testing, they tested as well or better than a driver did at times.
Yep.
It was just something about the look or something about who knows what that it just didn't become as popular. So we zapped that line. We added the driver high profile, which I felt like was definitely going to give us another advantage. I've heard for years and years from one of the most experienced target archers, is Tim Gillingham. He said for years and years, there's no vane that corrects better than a high profile. And I'm like, and I felt like ours did really well. Well, when I made the driver high profile, I definitely felt like when I started shooting it with my broadheads that I'm like, whoa, okay, there is definitely something to that. So I started really digging into center of pressure and how to basically increase that lever arm so that the vanes are correct even easier. So when you put a broadhead on the front, it's like vanes on the front. So you have to have enough vane to offset that, so you get correct flight. And that's the only way that it makes them like forgiving and, shoot. If you don't make a great shot, it's still hitting the dot,
Yeah.
And bows out of tune, I'm sorry, but I venture to say 80% of bows that are in the woods today are not tuned. 80%. I venture to say that.
Or not, at least not tuned to broadheads for sure.
Yeah, and guys are like, hey, I'm hitting a pie plate, let's go rip,
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a little scary, and then guess what? The broadhead gets blamed. Something gets blamed other than the Indian. And it's like,
For sure.
You didn't spend any time getting ready for this. You went and just hacked at it. Well, guess what? It's just proof that you see crossbows took off so much because I don't have to practice. I don't have time to practice. If you got a bum shoulder, by all means, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? Please get out there. I love that anybody's able to get out. But it just made people just an easy out to be able to get out in the best time of the year in archery season and, give yourself the best chance at a good deer.
I'm a vertical bow guy, right? I mean, I enjoy it very much, but I will say this, and I'm a different guy. There's a lot of guys that don't like crossbows, period, because that a bunch of lazy archers. Well, I'm going to tell you what. I would rather hand a crossbow to a couple of these guys than ever hand them a vertical bow, because I believe ethical kill of the animal is going to be better than handing them a vertical bow, because they're not going to practice. They're going to shoot them in the butt, shoot them in the nose, and wound animals, versus at least they are practicing and more ethical kills. And so that's my opinion on it, because we do have a whole bunch of lazy people in this world that don't want to take the time to put in the effort. And so on that note, I think personally it gets youth in the woods sooner, because they can't pull the poundage. They can't do. We're not growing any more hunters in this country. I hate to say it, but it is down every single year. And if we don't bring it down, get those kids off those video games, then and get them outside fishing, hunting, doing, it won't happen, right? It's just, so if the crossbow can be the step into the right direction for that young kid to get in the woods, to sit in a blind with their parents or with their neighbor, and get that first, like you said, that little fiberglass bow that you shot the yellow with the first time, that excitement, that eyeballs, that, oh my gosh, yes, this is awesome, I want to do it again type thing. If we don't put an effort into growing the sport and continuing it for people, it's not going to be here. So that's where I think that the crossbow has a place. And then the guy who has gotten to the point where his shoulders are bummed, he can't draw a bow anymore, and he still wants to get out there in the woods. I have a friend of mine I saw this past weekend. He's shooting a crossbow at the tournament. He's like, I can't hold a bow. He said, I can't hold this crossbow without a prop. He said, but I want to be here. I was like, dude, it was good to see you. I'm just glad that you're here. And but he had to shoot a crossbow. So in those specific pieces, I think that's perfect. And then on the other side, ethically, I owe it to the animal to have the person the best ability to shoot. So I preach the same thing that you're talking about: some practice, some time, some tuning, and like you said, wrenching on bows. More and more people are starting with the University of YouTube to teach people how to do different things. I mean, I know you've dedicated videos to that from FL Outdoors, of talking about products and how to use and do that type of thing to help the average Joe learn more. The problem that I found is we're oversaturated now. Because Joe says fletch it to the right, Tim says fletch it to the left, Bubba says fletch it to the upside down, and so people get confused because they don't know the what's the right way at that time, And there's not a right way. What works for you may not work for me. What works for me may not work for you. But as far as veins go, I mean, 3 veins on the back, 4 veins on the back. I mean, that's a discussion in itself. What works for Midwest guys don't always work for us guys over here in the East Coast that don't shoot past 30 yards. The average kill in the state of Georgia is still 17.5 yards.
Right. Yep.
So in Midwest, it's not. They wouldn't know what 17.5 yards looked like. They would freak out, So
I mean, with the crossbows, I know my son, he is now 7 years old, and I've taken him the last 2 seasons, and all with the crossbow. We have not hunted with a gun yet. I'm not opposed to guns by any means. It's just so far I've got him set up with a crossbow. I've got a place he can shoot it, and everything else. So it's been awesome, because just watching my son shoot his first deer with a crossbow was like, oh yes, like I remember just thinking, I'm like, Dad, I can only imagine what it was like seeing me shoot my first deer. I'm like, that's what my dad said to me. He goes, now you know what it's like to see your boy shoot his first deer.
100%.
And so he's hunted 2 seasons now. This little guy, he don't even know what hunting is yet, because he's hunted. Obviously, you can shoot 2 bucks in Georgia with a license, and you can even shoot them on the same day. So he ends up, he's hunted 3 times, and he's shot 4 bucks. So last year he shot 1 on a Saturday. One Saturday later he shot a second one. And then this year, he ends up shooting 1. I told him, I said, look, it's going to be dark in like 20 minutes. We're going to sit and wait. Well, another one comes by and stands at the same spot, and he's
zap that one too. That's right.
I was like, dude, your old dad has never even killed 2 bucks in one day. I'm like, that's awesome. Just keeping him pumped about it, because I have industry friends and like close mentors that I know have kids that are young, and they've brought them into it. And some of them I know have kids that are like trophy hunting at this point, and they're waiting and shooting good bucks. And I realized that I was like, hey man, what do I do? I'm like, how do I talk them into waiting for a nice little 8 point? They're like, don't. Like, trust me, don't. If he says he wants to shoot it, let him shoot it. Until he just makes his decision on his own that I'd rather wait for a nicer one, let him shoot it. I'm like, oh, really? I just want him to shoot a nice little buck, And they're like, look, these kids have no attention span. I always go back to the attention span. YouTube has like ruined kids today. Like my kids, I deleted the YouTube app off of my TV, because I literally notice a noticeable behavior difference with them that I'm like, I don't know what it is. It's like overstimulation in the wrong areas of their brain or something, that when I've got rid of it, they're way better.
Yep.
I want to teach my kids how to be an adult, not YouTube.
Exactly.
So I basically started really working on that and getting them fishing, and they instantly are just they're better off because we're all designed to be outside. Yeah, God made us to be outside in His creation and enjoying, being out there, and being an outdoorsman is what it's all about. So I'm trying to
Yep.
raise little outdoors people.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like that's why I think like I said, the crossbow is a perfect way to get you into that, and it transitions. Most of those younger will transition to bows. We see it all the time. I have lots of the kids that come in 7, 8, 9 years old, and they've hunted with a crossbow for 3 or 4 years, and the dads go, "It's time." She's strong enough now. She's gotten big enough now that she can start shooting a vertical bow, and so and they want something that they can grow with because it's going to take a while for that. So it's not like they're coming in to buy the most expensive bow or the top end bow, but a lot of bow companies now have figured that out and have built some type of grow with you system that would work to all the way up to top end 60, 70 pound bows that have good draw length, so that because those kids grow really fast. I remember, and maybe you can too, you were when companies didn't build bows for youth like that, and we had to Frankenstein bows. We had to take these cams off this part of short string bows, that kind of thing. We did all of that tinkering to make it work, and now companies are actually building great products as beginner products. Not that their beginner products ain't nothing. They're light years ahead of what I begin with, and that was a top end stuff, because bows today, the ergonomics and the efficiency on a bow today is so much better. That was Georgia had a 40-pound limit, for hunting for a while, but they've done away with that because you can get enough kinetic energy and enough, foot pounds that you don't have to have 40 pounds to get the job done, So, I had a young kid in here with 24 inches of draw length and was pulling 36 pounds and had almost as much foot pounds of kinetic energy out of that bow than I did when I was 16 years old out of a high bow when we had we shoot aluminum arrows and a 6.5 inch overdraw, and I thought I killed a truckload, and I like you said, I was still a young kid with a bow, and if it was brown, it was down. I was going to shoot it, right? And that's what hooked me. Yes, now I'm going to wait on it, and sometimes it bites me in the butt because my freezer don't get as full as it needs to be because I'm going to wait on something a little better. But I killed more deer at 262 feet per second than I ever have with a 300, 290 bow. Mm-hmm. And aluminum arrows, big fixed, big broadhead, 4-inch vanes, 6.5 inch overdraw. You could watch the arc out at 30. The arrow would just, but I killed a bunch of deer with it, and it makes you a better hunter because you got to learn to get it there. A 46 inch axle bow. Everybody's going, man, that 34 is long. I'm like, are you kidding me? I had a 47-inch bow when I was hunting,
And you all shot 29 or 30-inch draw.
30-inch draws, yeah. And a lot of those bows had round wheels, so if you kept pulling, you could make it longer, And bows like, I remember that when bows had a 70-pound rating on it, but you could turn the bolt in and you could make that sucker 100 pounds. Mm-hmm. It's like it started at 70. It's crazy. But yeah, industry has definitely changed a lot, but I think it's changed for the better. It's progressed, and it's easier to hit the middle faster with a bow today. And like you said, 80% of the bows out there may not be tuned like they should, but they're still killing deer better than what we did with a fully tuned bow that we took hours to make it work right. String material that's holding the time, that time, and an untuned bow will hit the same spot every time if you shoot it correctly. There's no doubt in my mind, because the efficiency of the bow is so much better than it used to be. But that's the cool part. And mechanical broadheads have come a long way, right? So we can talk about broadheads, because I mean you got a crossbow broadhead that's like, there's some guys who walk in, it really wants to shoot that broadhead because it's such a big cut. And I'm like, dude, this got a bit, that's like a weighs a ton. You're gonna have to have a whole lot of oomph to push that 3-inch cut on there, But
crazy thing about those is that they were literally designed by our original engineer who lives in Arizona, and he came up with the Swacker concept for elk hunting. And so you can kill an elk with an expandable broadhead. Well, there is no little white-tailed deer that you can't shoot to.
100%.
But what's crazy is that they've shot, so I know he tells me every year, how many between him and his really close friends. He has a kind of small circle that he hangs out with and hunts with and stuff. And last year, I know he told me that they shot their 78th elk, over years and years and years. And 90% of them were with Swacker broadheads. And he shot 20 of them with that 3-inch head.
Yeah.
Because a 3-inch head penetrates almost exactly the same as our 2-inch head because of our virgin blade design. They go all the way inside first, and then they open. Well, the wing blades, no matter what, are 1 inch wide when they're closed, so it takes the same amount of energy to open a 3-inch as it does a 2-inch. Well, when you have a razor sharp broadhead inside the rib cage and all it has to push through is soft tissue, it goes right through because it's literally still a razor blade. And so honestly, when I came to the company, I came just to work on tack, but I'm like, I always had really good luck with broadheads I shot before, but obviously I'm gonna have to shoot Swacker now. I'll have to figure it out. Well, in 6 years, I've shot 18 or 20 different animals with them. Man, I'm thoroughly impressed, and I have no problem being I'm telling you, I don't care who you are, you can shoot a Swacker, and as long as you don't make a terrible shot, you're going to find your deer. That's what it comes down to, But
yep. So I mean, that's the thing with Swacker broadheads. There's there happens to be a pretty good big name that shoots those products, that helps drive the industry. That that may people who may have not known the Swacker brand until then. But I mean, if you want to count how many animals are killed with a Swacker, you can just count his count. I mean, we're talking about Levi Morgan. I mean, he's done it all, and with he has a pretty good following, and he makes some shots that are unreal, right? Mm-hmm. I think let's get back to what you were talking about, when you said, hey, I'd like the kid to shoot a little bigger, at least an 8-pointer, nice whatever, and they told you don't. I think the social media has hurt the hunting industry, where the first thing I see is apologetic. Well, he wasn't quite as big as I wanted, but I had to have him, meat in my freezer, or they're all making excuses for hunting an animal. If it's Ted Nugent said it best. If it's a 4-pointer and you want to shoot it, if it's a spike and you want to shoot it, shoot it. I do believe in the state of Georgia we need to shoot more does. I really do. I mean, not that we don't have enough bucks to shoot, but I believe that that we should shoot more does. And if you're hunting for meat, if you're talking about meat, you should shoot does. And people doesn't understand about the concept of shooting does. I'm like, you're hurting your deer herd by not shooting does.
Yeah.
You're
those things that it's hard to measure, because you can't really say, is this why or whatever, because it takes time. But in Pennsylvania, man, I remember when I was growing up, there was no antler restriction. It just if it had a 1-inch horn, it was a buck.
That's right.
And so I remember when I first started letting some deer go. It was 2005. I literally just started at the archery shop, and to be honest, I didn't have any social media. I just had a little bit of inherent pressure because people would bring in these bucks. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that thing. I'm like, I've never killed anything like that. And then I started to talk to people. They're like, yeah, you know why? I didn't put my tag on a little one, so I still had a tag when this one came out. And I'm like, So then I started like scratching my head going, I'm going to wait. Sure enough, that first year, I'm like, here's a nice little 6-point I normally would have shot all day, but I'm going to let it go. And then a little 8-point, and I let it go. And then sure enough, I shot like a 119-inch buck, which not a giant.
Nope.
By far my biggest buck I ever shot. And I remember I was so proud of that. It was like, dude, that's why I let those ones go.
Yep.
My dad's like, that ain't how you were raised, because he just never did that. My dad he has a whole wall in the side of his shop. Every buck he's ever killed, he's got them up on this wall, and you can see the progression. All of a sudden, when I started hunting, you can see that he stopped shooting those bucks and he started waiting for a nicer one. And his progression is like night and day difference, and he gets it now, and he likes to let a buck go. And that's what I said, if it trips your trigger, I don't care if it's giant or small or whatever, if it trips your trigger, by all means, shoot it. However, understand the repercussions, like the whole, well, if I don't shoot, the neighbor's going to shoot it. Well, that's a never-ending cycle. Then either way, the deer gets shot.
Yep.
Like if you really want to grow big bucks, you can't shoot all the small ones.
That's a fact.
But with the does, especially in a bait state, people don't realize how much a doe eats, and the does dominate your pile, and they keep other deer out of their pile, and you don't even see them on your camera because the does are like in there crowding them out. And when they eat all the food, there's less food for the other ones to eat. So, and that's
right.
That's browse and the piles.
Oh yeah,
it's definitely battle of the pile here, is what I found.
Oh, for sure. There's no doubt about it. Once they had made that legal, it was one of those. And in the same situation, if you don't feed, your neighbor is. But at the same time, it's one of those. If you have tons of does, come rut season, the buck has nowhere to go. He just stands there and waits for all the girls to come by because there's that many girls, right? So he doesn't have to chase the doe like he would if the buck to doe ratio was better. Mm-hmm. And so I believe, and this is me, I think we should go to shoot a doe before you shoot a buck.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's 10 doe tags. It's like,
I know
people fill even half of them.
Nobody. The ratio was the report that I read from the past years was this however many deer hunters in the state of Georgia, because I was just looking at it in the state of Georgia. Let's just throw a number. Let's say that was 100,000. It's not, but let's just say it was. Out of 100,000, 1% killed. One or two bucks. The percentage was 1 or 2 bucks were harvested. Out of all the people that harvested, only 1% were does. Mm-hmm. So, yes, those guys are sitting around waiting on that big buck, but, which is great. Nothing wrong with that. But the reason they didn't tag a big buck is probably because they let all the does go, and the buck didn't have to run by because he's got 15 does. Mm-hmm. I have a gentleman over here that manages his property, and the biologist says you need to kill 120 does off your property this year to get it close to red, 10 to 1, 8 to 1, 7 to 1, 5 to 1, whatever you're trying to do. Now, there is a difference between what size piece of property we're talking about, right? Because if you have a 4-acre piece and you shoot all the does off your property, versus a 4,000 acre piece, I know that there's a lot of different avenues of managing animals in this state. So I believe that it would help everybody to shoot one doe before get your buck tag after you shoot your first doe. And there's plenty of places to donate the meat if you're just you want to hunt and find that big trophy. There's plenty of places to donate the meat. Big John's freezer is always open. You just tell me and I'll get it.
But there's usually somebody that'll take them.
Yeah, for sure.
They would take them. them even if you don't. This year, I actually so I don't really have the freezer space. So I finally ended up linking up with a guy who wanted a deer, and he traded me a cut up deer for a chest freezer. I'm like, perfect deal. So guess what? Between me and my son, we shot 6 deer this year because I had a freezer.
How you got a freezer to put them in, right?
Eating them, I mean, I don't ever like to talk too much about how much it actually costs per pound, because it's not cheaper.
No.
By the time we buy all our equipment and all the time we put into it and everything, it is not cheaper per pound. But
No.
the reward and the satisfaction of it, especially the camaraderie, taking your kids, that is well worth every bit of it.
100%.
When I go and I make buck tacos, that's like my kid's favorite thing. When I get some ground venison, I make buck tacos, and my boy always be like, "Is this my buck?" And he's like, "Yeah, buddy, thanks for shooting it. Good job."
Now we got to eat. Yep.
Yeah.
But I always say that per pound is definitely not the don't try to say that, because it's not. But at the same time, if I took up golf, I have nothing. I can't have tacos. I got to pay for those tacos too. So at least I'm getting a little bit of return on my investment. So because if I'm shooting, I'm not going to eat those little white balls that I chase around for sure.
Exactly. And that's the one thing about the baiting down here is Pennsylvania, you still can't bait.
Yeah.
So it's a total learning curve for me that I honestly, when I first came down here, I was a little bit judgy, and I was kind of like, man, this is about to be easy. No, it's far from that. It is, they come in, they're like wary and weird, and you know what I mean? Like, you got to make it a pretty comfortable spot, because what I found is I feel like any buck in this area that has 3 or 4 years of age on him, he's probably had at least 1 or 2 bad experiences at a pile with someone doing something. Whether they missed him, hit him, wounded him, who knows what, they probably had a bad experience or 2 in 3 or 4 years of their life. That some of them will not eat at one, period.
Oh, for sure. There's no doubt.
And it's crazy, but the one thing that I got to thinking about the first year, I remember I shot one, and I was like, okay, it tastes pretty good. I figured it would be different, whatever, from deer that I grew up eating, because we were not allowed to dump anything. If you had minerals out, you had to literally dig up all the soil, a month before the season and stupid stuff like that. But what I thought about is, I'm like, and at home in Pennsylvania, they were eating corn. We had tons of corn everywhere. There's beans everywhere. There's things for them to eat, like row crops, a lot of them. Here, it's all meadow, so it's like, it's the browse, it's acorns, and then it's whatever people are dumping is probably the majority of their tonnage that they eat in a year. And so I'm like, there's some of these companies that's why I'm proud of Come Here Deer. Like, everything we put into Come Here Deer is a legitimate ingredient. There are super cheap attractants and things like that you can buy, and they're super cheap because they literally fill them with like paper, like little paper, that they can just put that crap in them as a filler, and then they get their weight, they get their money, because it was cheaper to make. And so we are eating it. So that's what I got to thinking about. Is I'm like, the deer you eat, you're literally eating whatever they ate that someone else dumped.
Yep, for
it's
sure.
Really scary.
For sure.
Yep. Kind of makes you wonder. I mean, I guess there's enough browse and enough acorns that probably flush some of that out, but it's a real consideration for me.
Yeah. And that's, being in the attractant side with Come Here Deer, I mean, it makes you look at that side of the, more than you ever did before. Come Here Deer wasn't a thing in Pennsylvania at all as far as attractants go, and then putting out something for the deer, you couldn't, so it wasn't used. It's sort of like crossbows that we talked about earlier in certain states were outlawed for so long that nobody even looked at them. They don't even know nothing about them. So it's all about what you know and where you're at. Now, there is a truckload of browse here in Georgia because of our weather. We grow a lot of green stuff, and for a longer period of time, so they do have a lot of browse to eat. And like you said, acorns. At the time, I mean, we had a bumper crop so bad last year that the deer didn't move because they didn't have to go anywhere to find acorns because they were in every tree that was an acorn tree. But like you said, attractants. I look at what's in the ingredients for sure, because corn, right? Corn is not really, it's ice cream for deer. Nutritiously, it's not the best thing in the world, right? But it's like ice cream for us, right? It's not very nutritious, but we like it a lot. Deer like the corn because it's something, but at the same time, it's not the most nutritious part in it. So I'd like to see different things with my attractants or my things that actually, have a little protein in it, have something to, help them. And this time of year is people, like you said, that little percentage of I don't pull my bow out to the last minute. Well, people don't feed at this time of year, and this time of year is when they grow in their antlers. If you can give them a nutritious something at this time of year, it makes your antlers look so much better at the come time to hunt them. And people don't know that. They don't do that because they only throw it out because they're looking for an attractant. They're going to put it in that pile so they can hunt over it. And now that you've hunted in Georgia and you've hunted in Pennsylvania and other places, you can tell me, just like I believe, that Georgia deer hunting is some of the hardest deer hunting there is because Bubba Joe Redneck has trained all the deer.
Right. It's definitely different. I mean, that's what I explained to my friends back home. They're like, yeah, but you're just sitting over a pile. I'm like, I really don't just sit over a pile, and I put that pile in a very specific place. All I'm doing is where they typically cross the road or something at like 80 yards down from it, I bring my pile up here so that I can slip into it real quietly, and it brings them crossing here.
Yep.
I've not all, but a lot of the bucks that I've shot here in the last 6 years, they were not facing the pile. They were chasing a doe that happened to be there, who came in all the time. And last year was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Okay, so because I had doe tags and I had a freezer, I had this doe busted me right on a Tuesday, and I get in there and she comes in and the wind was right. The wind was great, but the thermals or something were swirling down there, and she caught wind of me, and she came in and she was being all weird, and I'm like, and she starts blowing and stomping, and her little one's standing there eating. I'm like, I'm not going to shoot you, but they naturally understand that, the smell of humans like that is danger and whatever. And so she leaves and she runs off, and her doe ends up, her fawn follows her. Well, the next night I'm sitting in the same spot. My wind's right again. She comes in and she's like all weird the entire time. Her fawn comes right in, starts feeding, and she is taking forever to come in. Finally, I'm like, not again. So I shot her, and I shot her, and I put a shot on her that dropped her. So she fell right there, 15 yards, and she's right there. Well, all of a sudden, like 15 minutes later, I look over, and here comes. I'm like, ooh, there's a little buck. So I glass him. I'm like, there's another one behind it. There was 3 bucks all come. It was like smallest to biggest, and they caught wind of her. They smelled her, and this is like very, very beginning of the rut this year. Well, the biggest one runs the other 2 off. They were buddies. All of a sudden, he runs them off. He's trying to he's grabbing her by the hind end, trying to get at her. He's trying to figure out how he can mount her. I got it all on video, and I ended up seeing 10 different bucks that day. He didn't leave that doe for 7 hours. He stayed right with her for 7 hours. I seen 10 different bucks. Every single buck that was traveling anywhere in that area, excuse me, he saw him and was like, oh no. He went over, stood up at him, and the buck would come over and be like, no, I'm not going to accept that challenge.
Yeah.
He's about a year older than any of the other ones. I'm like, I just need one of my mature ones to come by because he's going to accept the challenge. It didn't happen, but it was an unreal day. Just sitting there watching deer behavior and what they do. Until she got totally stiff and cold, he's like, all right, I guess she's not going to get up, and she finally left.
Yeah.
but it's just crazy what they'll do, and they definitely. This last year, I ended up shooting this buck. Actually, the one right here. I shot that one last year. He's at least 6.5, possibly 7.5-year-old buck. He just wasn't ever going to grow very big. This year he grew like a weird side down, and I was like, okay, I'm going to hunt him this year. And I had my camera out there since the spring. I started feeding in like the end of May, just so that way I get something going. But I had minerals out and everything. And since I moved here, I got pictures of that buck in 2022 that he's not less than 2.5 years old. So I knew he had at least 6. And that deer, I've gotten like 3 daylight pictures of him ever. Never got a daylight picture of him standing there eating. He would come in at night and he'd come in with this other buck and everything else, but he would never come in there during the day. So finally I was like, I'm going to move. I have my regular SD camera, sitting there, looking at the corn pile. And then I went about 50 yards down from it where all the deer, well, that's probably 30 yards, where they leave the pile and they walk back down. I put my Tacticam down there. Within one day, I get a picture of this buck at 10:20 in the morning. I'm like, oh,
yep.
I wasn't hunting because I'm like, I wasn't seeing him there. I'm like, I'm not even going to go. I'll wait until he shows up or something else shows up or whatever. Well, then I realize these cameras screw us up
100%
out of the woods because he's not showing up right there going, hey, and so then I realized, I'm like, okay, well, this is actually more common sense than I would have thought. I set that camera up. The next day I go out and kill him. He came right in right before dark. He wasn't coming to the pile. He was just crossing by. He might have come down there later. He wasn't to come but what he does, he beds right across the road. He's got this big dirt mound that he beds right up on top of so that he can see everything coming. Perfect little spot. Across the road, was just coming across there to go down to get a drink out of the pond.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be there.
And you wouldn't hunt because you didn't see him on camera, and he was walking within 30 yards of the camera. He knew better, They didn't get big for a reason, or old for a reason. They may not all get big, but they didn't live that long being dumb because the dumb ones seem to get shot early. So.
Yeah, so I tell, and that's something I always said to people in Pennsylvania. People will be like, "Man, you're just lucky." I'm like, "Why?" They're like, "Well, you always end up with a nice one." I'm like, "I don't always end up with a nice one. I'm not going to say that. I would never say that." However, I'm like, "What'd you shoot this year?" And they're like, "Well, a little 8-point." I'm like, "Okay, when did you kill it?" "First week in October." Bro, you're not even giving yourself a chance at a mature deer. They're very, very, very rarely out in the beginning of October unless it's a fluke type thing. They got bumped or he's just continually coming in. Every now and then that happens, but in my experience, it's just so rare. And so I'm like, if you're not hunting around Halloween or shortly after, you're not even giving yourself much of a chance at a mature deer. That just doesn't happen.
For sure. And I believe that too. Even here, in Georgia, I think that Halloween is sort of that kickoff. I've killed more decent. The several that I have, there's one you can't see it. It's above sitting on top there. But some of my biggest deer have all been in that Halloween end of the month, the first week, because that's that cruising period. It's not so much chasing period. It's now they're testing. So the good part about it is they're not running around like chickens with their heads cut off. So I don't have to wait for it to get there. That kind of thing. That's fun to watch. There's no doubt in my mind. But at the same time, they're cruising enough that they're up on their feet a little bit more. They're, come out a little bit early because they're ready. They get antsy. And usually the young ones get antsy first, because they're just young bucks, right? So, that's the cool part about the hunting. But I always tell everybody, I said, the deer do not have a predator in nature that they need to look into a tree. But every Georgia deer look into the top of a tree. There's no doubt in my mind they walk around looking at the tops of trees, and there's not a predator out there besides a human but we've trained them so well. Now they're going to step out and say, hey, where are they at? And I'm like, why are they looking in the tree? Well, that's because we've trained them too well. Like you said, most of they've had an experience with somebody at a pile that either missed it, shot it, moved too much, whatever. And now it's like, hey, I'm going to go look, see where they're at, because I've shot some off the ground in Georgia in the last few years because deer are looking in the trees. They're not looking on the ground as much as they used to. It's the craziest thing in the world.
Yeah, they're definitely, it's so much more common sense, and people put all kinds of thought into things. Well, if I do this, then I think that might happen, whatever else, and there's so much more to it. And that's really, that you can really simplify right down to access. Like, people don't understand that, like, deer hunt us. Like, they literally know how to see. Like, they'll sit somewhere close enough to where they're planning to eat that night and determine, did I see anything coming in or out of there today
that wasn't right?
Can't go there tonight, because there's people that are like, oh, I played cat and mouse with him all year and whatever else, and it's like, yeah, I don't know about that, but like, it's more than likely he probably saw you walk in and went, oh, can't go there tonight until after dark. It's that simple. Like, I learned that from hunting public land in a couple different places. I first started hunting in a place in Ohio, and then I hunt some public land, like I said, in Missouri. And literally, if there's a parking area that like gets frequented, like people park there pretty often to scout, to hunt, to anything, if there's a parking area and if there's a vantage point, a ridge somewhere that looks at that parking lot, I almost guarantee you'll find sign there. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why is there sign right here? It's like, because they hang out here and they look, they're like, vehicle, gotta go. And they literally all leave. And I'm like, man, why didn't I see anything today?
Yep.
That's simple, guys. Like, you have to be smarter than them. Like, we train our dogs to go up and ring a bell when they have to go out. Like, you think these animals rely on their survival. So they,
for sure,
definitely means a lot to them.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's the cool part about it. Like I said, we could talk hunting stories forever. We can also talk archery forever, because you played a little bit in all the tournament side of things, hunting side of things. You've killed some great animals. I've seen pictures from the past, when you've hunted and been able to go and do. Now it's not about you; it's about the kids, and I understand that completely. Let's just end this with where to find your products. So, give us a web page, find us on socials, and how they broke apart and so forth. So,
all right. And so all of our products from our page lives on floutdoors.com. So all of our brands are on there. We merged all of our brands into one site so that you can get it all kind of one-stop shop. All of our social medias are separate. So we have Swacker's own Facebook and Instagram. TAC has its own Facebook and Instagram. Both of those brands also have their own YouTube channel, which you'll see my ugly mug on there showing people how they work. And I try to give like a straight up unbiased opinion, just explain how they work, because there's a lot of things that somebody can look at and be like, oh, well, how does this work? And they can look at it and still not understand how it works. And so I like to get on there and explain to people how they work. And, like I said, all of our social channels are all separate, but website is all individual. And go into your local pro shops. We do everything to make sure that we're policing our pricing so that there's not just people blowing it out online. Shop around, go to a store, and if you don't see a brand that you want, ask them why, or ask them for it or something so that they bring it in. And so we want as many people to buy from a shop as possible.
Yeah, I knew we was going to talk long enough to my camera go out. Hold on 1 second.
All right. You're too hot.
That's the funny part. I talked with Curtis that long too. My camera went out, so I'm still here. I'm just a black screen. But yeah, so you can find on Facebook, social media, some of your information from YouTube has been pretty cool. Some, like you said, information that people didn't know how it worked, or a better why it works, and you give some better information on that for sure. And for you personally, how people can find you, besides you're usually traveling wherever, representing the product. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I go to every ASA event. I go to the major NFAA events. I'll be at one TAC event, the one in Utah. So that's
Utah.
Coming up.
Okay.
Yep, that's the one I got to pick for this year that I'm going to go to, because it's a different demographic of people that I don't ever get to really touch. I want to get out there and just kind of like, start a little something out there, because anybody that has shot our stuff and used it even remotely close to the way it's supposed to is not unimpressed. Like, it just doesn't happen. So we really just need to continue to get more people to use them, try them. We take feedback, like every technical email that comes in. So if you go onto our website, floutdoors.com, and you write in anything technical, hey, I got a question about this. How's this work? Does this fit this? And what if I'm shooting this bow? And here's my setup. What broadhead or what vane do you recommend? And things like that. I'm the one that personally answers every one of them, because I want to make sure that I'm giving people like the most accurate information. And I don't just do any blanket statements. I mean, I dig in to make sure that I'm giving you a thorough answer so that you can take it. And guess what? That person becomes a spokesperson for us.
Sure.
When someone asks them, they can regurgitate that information. So I want to just fill people with information so that, it's not like, and that's one big point that we started to kind of hint at earlier, is that I'm a user, like I'm an actual archer. There are so many companies that are creating products based on theories. Well, it should work, and I have a couple buddies that test them for us, or we build a pro staff because we have the money to pay them, and they promote our products, and they give us some feedback and things, but unless you're really in it, that's why I'm passionate about it, and that's why I can talk about my products, mine and our products, so I'm passionate about it, So
for sure.
I love it, man. I eat, sleep, and breathe archery. It's been my career for 21 years this year, so it's been going good.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the the best part about it. Like you said, you're in the industry, and you're also a user just as much as you are But we'll talk about it. Like I said, it's all right. Can be found right here, FL Outdoors. So, oh, darn, I hit the wrong button. There it is. And you can find all of it, Schwacker, Tack, Come Here Deer, old Hank Parker and his whole family, slinging the stuff. So, it's a great thing for sure to be able to see and do. Let's see. That's what's bad about this is I do it and then I can't see it. Where'd it go? I'm telling you, I'm trying to learn new things every time. So, that's not it. All right. Where did it go? Let me shrink this down. Look, I done moved me while I was doing that. But, yeah. So you can find it. I appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I know I've taken up, your lunch hour is done talking to Big John today. So you just have to, go and get back to it. If give him a chance that we'll talk again. We never even got into the 4-fletch versus 3-fletch and right helical, left helical. That's a big old. We can just go into just technical on that one day for sure. But I appreciate your time today, and until next time, I'm Big John. That's Mr. Randy, and we'll see ya.
All right. Thanks, John. See